Welcome to the topic today about project charters. This is the last video in the feasibility phase for reasons that will become evident over the course of the video. So by the end of today, you will be able to explain what is a project charter, list the typical sections and detail that go into a project charter, and apply this information in your first major assignment. So what on earth is a project charter? Well, this is a project management speak for a formal document which is used to approve a project moving from the feasibility phase into the planning phase. It allows the project sponsor to allocate money and/or people to the project. It's similar to a business case, but it covers more than just financial aspects. According to the Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK, a project charter should include a number of typical sections. Almost all of these sections we've talked about already, and then there's a few administrative sections at the end. Let's look at each typical section in turn. So the first is a project purpose or justification. This is where you establish the why of your project. What problem are you overcoming or solving? Then there's the measurable objectives and success criteria. These have a little bit more detail on how the project will solve that problem. It's like if objectives A, B, and C are all met at this particular level of success, then the overall project purpose can be said to have been achieved. Then there's the high-level requirements. These are quite broad items that the project requires in order to move forward, and they can include requirements that the project must meet at the end as well. For example, you can assume that for a building development, there will be some high-level requirement about meeting local safety and construction standards. Or for a new piece of software, a high-level requirement could be what operating system it might need to run on. The high-level project description is a very broad overview of what will be included in the project, and also any key items that are being excluded. The last bit is really important as well. High-level risks are the small number of risks that have been identified as having a high degree of risk, either through their high likelihood or high impact, or both. We also have the summary milestone schedule, is a set of 7 to 10 milestones. Note at this point, a full schedule is not included. It's just a milestone list with estimated dates. A summary budget is also included. Note the word summary. It is not a page of calculations and quantities. The key components of a total cost need to be identified at a bare minimum. If you aren't sure of these, go back and watch the preliminary cost and time estimates video. Then the direct cost might be broken down a little bit more, and there might be a short explanation for how that total was made, just to show that the numbers weren't plucked out of thin air. A stakeholder list is just a list of all the stakeholders involved in their roles. It isn't normally a complete analysis or an in-depth register. The project approval requirements is about who decides what, when, and how. It could look at key approval points during the project and the what, when, and how for each of those points. The assigned project manager, their responsibility and authority level. So their name, what are their responsibilities, what are they allowed to do? This could also include things that they are not responsible for or not allowed to do, just for clarity. And then there's the name and authority of the sponsor or other people authorising the project charter. This is just a spot for a name, the sponsor's role in the organisation, and a way for them to sign the approval. Alright, so we've covered all the typical sections, but I hear you asking whether all the charters are the same. Well, my answer? No, unfortunately not. Those typical sections are not set in stone, and neither is the order. Many organisations will have a template that project managers must use and an expected level of detail. Some charters are written as very brief one-page documents, and others are quite long and onerous. You can see the variety if you simply Google project charter templates. But now that you've done that, do not use any of those templates for your assignment. Speaking of the assignment, some really important points I need to make. In your assignment, you're actually writing a very modified project charter. The assignment brief gives you very specific guidance about what to include and what not to include. It's like a streamlined project charter. So please just don't go ahead and write a full charter based on this video for your assignment. Read the brief before starting and do not use a random template that you found online. So time for some quick review questions, and remember to bring your written answers to the next tutorial. Question 1. What is the purpose of a project charter? Why would an organisation use one? Question 2. It's common for students to feel that the first few sections repeat the same information, but they are actually distinctly different. So explain in your own words the difference between the high-level requirements and the high-level project description. Write out a short example for the case study you're going to use for the weekly assignments. Question 3. What is meant by the responsibilities and authority levels of the assigned project manager? Write out some examples of each and bring them along to the next tutorial. And that finishes the video on project charters, which is the last video in the feasibility phase of the course. Next week we'll move into the planning phase, but in the meantime, make sure you have at least started the first major assignment. If you haven't done that yet, start it now before we move into the planning phase.